let's jump into something pretty cool today. We're going to do a deep dive into, well, how to set up a really organized test framework,
Awesome.
and specifically looking at the folder structure.
Yeah.
We've got like this whimsical diagram,
Right.
which is kind of cool because it maps out all the folders. So this is like your cheat sheet
Oh, yeah.
to building a really robust test framework.
I love it. A well-organized test framework is a thing of beauty.
Oh, yeah.
It can really make your life so much easier. Like, think about it. You're not spending hours hunting for files or trying to figure out what goes where. You're just in the flow writing those beautiful tests.
It's like when you have all your tools organized in your like workbench, right?
Absolutely.
You can just like grab the right tool for the job.
Yeah. And you know exactly where to put it back when you're done.
Yeah, you're not like digging around in a drawer.
Exactly. No more digging. So let's break down this framework, shall we? Let's start right at the top, at the project root. What do we have there? We've got those usual suspects, the .jidignore file, the pom.xml file, and the readme.md file.
Yeah, the three amigos of every project, right?
Absolutely. And each one is important in its own way. Like the .gitignore file, that keeps our repository clean. It tells Git which files to ignore so we don't accidentally commit things that shouldn't be there. The pom.xml file, that's the heart of our Mason project. It manages all the dependencies, the external libraries that our project needs to run. And the readme.md file, that's like our project's welcome mat. It tells people what our project is about, how to set it up, and how to use it.
The documentation, that first impression.
Yes, the first impression.
Okay, so now let's move into the actual meat and potatoes of the project. We go into the sirrc folder, and then specifically into Steramain JavaCon Xclone app domain. And, this deep dive is about testing, right?
Right.
What's the domain folder doing in here?
That's a great question. Because this folder, it's the heart of our application. This is where all the business logic lives, the models, the objects, the stuff that makes our app unique. It's not directly involved in testing.
Okay.
But here's the key. Understanding what's in the domain folder, it's like knowing the blueprints of a house before you start testing the plumbing.
Yeah.
You need that foundational understanding
Yeah.
of how the application works to really write effective tests.
Okay, so the foundation's laid. Now let's get to the real testing playground, right? We head into Steracom Xclone.
There we go. Now we're talking.
This is where all the testing action happens.
The magic happens.
And the first folder we encounter is Pages. So what's up with Pages?
Okay, so Pages is where we embrace the page object model, the POM.
Okay.
This is like a design pattern, right?
Right.
And basically it says, hey, let's treat each web page like it's its own object.
I see.
So if you're testing, let's say, an e-commerce website, you might have a homepage object, a product page object, a shopping cart page object.
Yeah.
And so on.
So you're like creating mini blueprints for each page.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. And this makes your tests much more organized, much easier to read, and much easier to maintain.
It's like modularizing the pages.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it.
So we've got our Pages folder.
Yep.
But where do all the actual elements,
Yeah.
the buttons and the input fields, like all that stuff that actually makes up the page?
Another great question. So for that, we have the page elements folder. And in this folder, we keep all our element locators. So that's the code that actually tells our tests how to find these specific elements on a page. By keeping these locators separate, we keep our code clean and organized.
So it's like separating the what from the where.
Exactly.
Like what the page is
Yeah.
doing and where those elements are located.
You got it.
Okay.
And this makes our code much more robust to changes in the UI. So if, for instance, a developer decides to move a button to a different part of the page, we only need to update the locator in one place.
Okay, so we got our pages, we got our elements. Now, how do we actually run these tests? Is there like a big go button somewhere?
I wish it were that simple, although that would be fun.
Right.
Just one big button, run all the tests. But no, in reality, we have a runners folder for that. And this runners folder, think of it like the conductor of an orchestra, right?
Okay.
They control which tests get executed in what order and with what configurations.
Okay.
So, for example, you might have one runner for your smoke tests, another for your regression tests, and maybe even one specifically for running just the failed tests from the previous run.
Oh, a failed test runner. So you can like retry all the ones that...
Exactly.
That's smart.
Yep.
Okay, so we got the runners to run all our tests.
Yep.
But before we run any tests, we need to make sure the environment's all set up, right? Like We need to open the browser, maybe
Mm.
log in, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And that's where our hooks folder comes in.
Right.
This folder is where we define all the setup and teardown actions
Okay.
that need to happen before and after each test.
Right.
Think of it like, you wouldn't bake a cake without preheating the oven first, right?
Right.
The hooks are like preheating the oven for our tests, making sure the environment's all ready to go, and avoiding any unexpected surprises.
Okay. So the environment's all prepped.
Yeah.
We got our tests ready to go. But how do we actually write these tests? I see a folder here called step definitions.
Ah, yes. This is where the magic of translating human language into code really shines. Remember how we talked about the page object model separating the actions from the locators? Well, in step definitions is where we take those actions and we turn them into actual code that interacts with our application.
Okay.
We use a language called Gherkin for this, which is designed to be human readable, so even non-technical folks can understand what the tests are doing.
Oh, very cool. So like almost plain English, you can understand what the test is doing.
Exactly. It's like a bridge between the human world and the computer world.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. But, testing often involves a lot of data. We got usernames, passwords, product details, all that stuff. Where do we keep all that information?
For that, we have the utilities folder. And this folder, it's like our toolbox. It's filled with helper functions for all sorts of common tasks, like reading data from external files, managing the browser, or waiting for elements to load.
Okay, so it's like a bunch of reusable tools that we can use throughout our tasks.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, so we've got our pages, our page elements, our runners, our hooks, our step definitions, and our utilities.
We're in a roll.
Whew. Is that everything?
Almost. There's one more crucial piece of the puzzle.
Oh, no.
Don't worry, it's a good one. This is where we keep all the goodies that support our tests. And here we have 3 main folders: features, test data, and configuration.
Ooh, okay. Features. Does that have something to do with that Gherkin language we were talking about earlier?
You bet. The features folder is where we actually write our test scenarios using Gherkin.
Okay.
So this is where we outline the steps of our tests in that clear, human-readable way that we talked about. Think of it like writing a recipe for a test.
So, like, I could go in there and read those files and kind of understand what the test is trying to accomplish, even if I'm not a programmer.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. It's all about making testing accessible to everyone on the team. And this is where collaboration really kicks in. You can have your testers working alongside developers and business analysts, all contributing to defining how the application should behave.
Very cool. Okay, so what about test data?
This is where we store all the external data that our tests rely on. So, we talked about usernames, passwords, product details. All that good stuff lives in the test data folder.
It's like separating our data from our code.
Exactly. And we can have this data in different formats, right? We can use spreadsheets, JSON files, CSV files, whatever works best for the situation.
Okay, so we've got our features, our test data, and lastly, configuration.
This folder houses all the vital configuration files that control how our tests run in different environments. Think about it. You might have different URLs for your test environment versus your production environment, or maybe different database credentials.
Oh, right.
So by centralizing this information in the configuration folder, we make it super easy to switch between environments without having to change our test code.
So, like, if I need to run my tests against a staging environment, I just change a couple of settings in the configuration files, and boom, I'm good to go.
Exactly. It's all about flexibility and making our tests as robust as possible.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today.
Mm.
We've gone from the project root all the way down to the deepest depths of our test framework.
It's been quite a journey.
It's amazing to see how much thought goes into organizing these folders and how each folder plays such a specific role in creating a really efficient and maintainable test framework.
It really is. And you know what's great about this structure? It's not just about keeping things tidy. It's also about promoting collaboration.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine you have a team of developers, testers, even business analysts, all working together on the same project. Having this clear folder structure, it acts as a common language, right?
Right.
Everyone knows where to find things. Everyone understands how things fit together.
Like a shared understanding.
Exactly. And that shared understanding leads to smoother workflows, fewer misunderstandings, and ultimately, a better product. Having a clear framework can make a huge difference.
Food for thought. On that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, happy coding.
And happy organizing.
See ya.